Hey everyone, this is Rocky from WeLearnChess.com, and I had an interesting game yesterday. More just wanted to look at the final position, but I might as well show how we got there because it was a totally insane game. So my opponent played the French defense, and for the most part, I've been playing the Tarrasch here, which is pretty sharp. You don't always get the same lines, but this is one kind of common thing where Black goes for early play on the center here with c5, and he just really piles up on it. And there's the final piece there, and you can even just sack this pawn as white. It's kind of an interesting game here, and you swing this knight around, which just in time to defend this pawn attacks the queen, so forces the queen out, and you get nice open development. So a lot of times you do something. The next move is you got to get the queen over to harass here. So something like this, where well, castling here, and you've got bishop h6 to win the exchange. So usually you'll force some sort of concession here like this, and actually I'm not sure what the best move. I think the computer wants to actually protect this pawn, and French players do tend to take this b2 pawn, which is totally amazing, but you could do something like preventing castling rights. I don't know if that's best here actually, but it's kind of interesting, and leads to some pretty double-edged play. If Black can survive the attack, then he's just got your important center pawn, and you didn't really you have to get something for it. One other line is after you play the queen over here to a4, Black can try to trade queens, but this is the way that you would avoid it. Something like this, and I'm not sure what's best here. I think the idea is to force the queen back and then try to do this, but here Black gets to castle, so I think that's slightly better for Black. And this pawn is undefended, so actually maybe you have to defend it first before you come over. But yeah, in any case, that's Black's pieces are still pretty tied up, so you want to try to create an attack out of this before you can. And actually, I don't even know if castling there's a good idea. I'm already looking at sacrifices, but the bishop does kind of protect this diagonal for the moment. Still, there might be an attack there, but kind of interesting either way. But anyway, we didn't do that in this game, and I'm starting to mess around with the classical, and I'm just kind of painfully learning slowly because there's like a million lines on this. Just kind of seeing themes and learning as I go. But it's good to vary your responses a little bit so you learn some stuff. So, yeah, this is the winnower, and I know that the first couple moves here are book. And you have to play this as white here just to avoid losing your knight. So, yeah, just like, I don't know, maybe this is the best move or something. I don't really know what the theory is for the winnower, but just seems so kind of greedy, I guess, going after pawns right out of the opening, moving your queen. But it does put pressure on you, and you have to do something about it. So, I'm assuming that that's probably the best way to do it, because otherwise the pawn would be pinned. Although maybe that wouldn't be the end of the world, but I don't know if I would want to just lose my center pawn for nothing, like if I tried to defend this in some other way. So, okay, so Black closes down the diagonal, so I guess he'll play on the queen side and White will play on the king side. And this seemed like one way to just start to get some pressure and try to punish the absence of the dark square bishop, force some kind of concession. So, yeah, I didn't really see a move where I was going to be able to prevent castling rights on the next move here, but here was an interesting moment where I already gave up. I already have a pretty good advantage according to the computer, but I don't know how much that means because I don't really know exactly what to do with it. I mean, I've got some nice kingside activity, but if I'm not careful, Black will start to generate play on the queen side, and if I don't make something out of the attack, then he could just win an endgame due to my doubled pawns or something. But we'll see. He has a bad bishop too. I mean, this is kind of interesting because, like, let's say he managed to trade queens in some point, and we have like a queenless middle game. Then you kind of want to ask yourself, like, if you've ever read any chess books by Jeremy Silman, he always is talking about like minor piece battles. So it's something to think about. So you kind of compare the minor pieces that are left on the board, and which ones have more potential, which ones have better squares, which one have more activity, more chances to do things. So in this case, we both have a bad bishop. I have a bad bishop. He has a bad bishop. Although my bad bishop is slightly better because it's looking at some weak and dark squares over here. Whereas it's going to take him probably a few moves to be able to do something with this light square bishop, if ever. So I think my bad bishop is better than his bad bishop. And my light square bishop doesn't have a ton of scope either, but again, it's going to have some diagonal here that I can potentially deal with, like maybe playing playing with these G and H pawns, loosening this up, and then my bishop will come to life over here. So that's kind of interesting. His knights might be better than, than my knight or than my bad bishop, though. So it's kind of something to think about, and maybe that's part of why the evaluation is the way it is. Maybe it's just like a better evaluation of the pieces that are left on the board. Okay, so I just wanted to, with this queen move before, I just wanted to prevent castling for the time being, so, at least has to spend one more move before he can castle, which was this, just to protect the knight. So he wants to castle. And here, I should have played g4 right away and just prevented this knight from coming to this great defensive square. And I had this idea, but I played it one move too late. I just wanted to develop first before I ran into anything, but the point is that, and maybe even my rook, it's, there's an argument that this could even be better where it is than after castling, because I might just want to go for an all-out attack here and just try to rely on the closed center so that my king's, not getting mated right away. But instead, because I played it one move later, he immediately goes into the defensive square, and now I did play it, but it's too late. Because this knight jumps back to g7, where I can go to e8 and not only bump the queen, but also protect this g7 square, so it's really annoying. I've seen this before, but I didn't think of it in time, so that's what happens sometimes, I guess, when you play sort of instinctively. Like, I like to develop my pieces, and I don't like to push a lot of pawns when I don't have to, and, I tend to sometimes, if I see, like, just a natural development move in the opening, I sometimes make it without thinking too much, and I think that's part of the deal too with some of these openings where they're sensitive, like Bobby Fischer used to say the winner was no good. I don't think it's necessarily no good. I mean, according to him, because he was such a perfect technical player, obviously he could pretty much beat anything, but for like us normal human beings, I mean, you have to find, like, not the refutation, because that's not the right word, it's not like the French winner is refuted opening, but you have to find, like, some way to exploit what your opponent has, sacrificed by choosing a certain move order or a certain piece placement. And a lot of times I don't give enough thought to that in the opening. I mean, part of it is that it's blitz, so that's another reason why I shouldn't play blitz, because I'm not learning as much. But at least this is a 10-minute time control, so it was a 10-0 game. But okay, so we got into this here, and he was sort of defending, so I castled with the idea of maybe putting my king on g2 and sliding the rooks over, although it takes a really long time before this happens. So he tries to trade queens, and it would make his defensive task a little bit easier. I'm not sure if this really helped him, actually, because it gave me a square for some pieces potentially here. Oops. Out on e5, although I don't know if I was ever able to use it. So towards the end, maybe. So yeah, I think my idea here is to try to loosen up his king side a little bit. That's where my play is, so I just wanted to get my pieces to better squares. I tried to use this square. He was trying to trade queens there again on the long diagonal. So that's why I took with the pawn. I just wanted to try to keep the queens on the board, because if we go to some endgame, I mean, I don't really have a great pawn structure, and we could argue about the minor pieces, but it's also not my strength, so I wanted to try and play for an attack, and really want to keep the queens on for that, so... Okay, so now that I've got this bishop lodged in there pretty nice, I mean, my next was probably a mistake, because I give up this, just permanently, this defensive square, and he plops right in there, so I probably should have considered that more. My idea was that, if he wants to get rid of this bishop, like with 98 or something, he's going to have to give me a really far advanced protected passer, so... but, of course he didn't do that, he just did this, and actually I lose this ability to create the passer because I decided to take here. So, would have been interesting to leave it there too, I thought about that, but... Okay, so anyway, let's get to this end position, where it's just a totally insane game. And this is the position where, I wanted to look at, so we're actually even material, which is hard to believe, just looking at the board, it's a total mess. But, and I can't say I totally blame him for this move, I mean, I don't even know if it's a mistake necessarily, but it's just kind of like, it's so frustrating to play French defense players, because, like, they'll be so greedy, like, almost all the time they're greedy, and they'll just go after a pawn. Like, if I was defending this, I'd be so afraid. Like, I've got the two bishops, potentially this bishop's coming in. It's actually forced it to move, so it's going to come in a little bit now. One of his only defenders over here, his only defender really at the moment, maybe the rook counts, is this knight, which is currently pinned. My rooks are going to come over pretty fast. I mean, he can move his rooks over too. That's probably what he was thinking, that he was okay. But it just looks totally insane. So, like, if you're an attacking player, those kind of moves just make your blood curdle, and you want to just, like, kill him. So anyway, he comes back up, and he tried to trade queens here, and I guess he wanted me to take so that then he could move his knight over and have a nice square. I didn't take, and I fully expected him to take at this point. At this point, I mean, I didn't really want to trade queens, but if he takes it, and then I get my rooks a little bit active, maybe I'll be able to be a little bit faster on the open files. So, or at the very end, maybe I'll be able to use my bishops. We'll see. But he surprised me by not taking here, and because of that, I was able to use this pawn and kick this this queen away. Now the knight is pinned. I've closed up his open file, and potentially I'll be able to get my king behind this bishop and slide my rooks over. So it's looking pretty good. So he comes back here, and of course, he takes a pawn, which actually turned out it probably was good, because it keeps an eye on this rook. So I've got to expend a move to get this rook out of the way of the queen. And if I just do this, then, well, he just takes this, and he's got like 4 connected passers, and he's still on the rook, so that didn't really help me. So anyway, yeah, so, well, I got my rook ready anyway. So, now actually I don't have to protect this rook first, because I'm just threatening mate, so he's got to do something about it. And, actually, is it not mate? Yeah, maybe he can actually escape. No, he can't escape, right? Yeah, this is check, so, yeah, I think he almost thought that, like, this pawn's pinned, so he was going to take this, but he forgot that my rook was back here, so I can actually take with the queen. Which I guess was good that I played that rook h1. I was thinking more of attacking, but it turned out to be a defensive move too, because if this knight wasn't pinned, then it just would have been a free piece for him. So yeah, he paused for a second here. I think he realized that he had done something, but then he caught this here. But actually, this is an interesting position. So I thought here for a while, and I really wanted to see if I could do some kind of sacrifice with the rook, and mate, and I actually got this, I forget what this is called. There's like some mate where you draw the king out on the file, and then you just bring your other rook over. So it was kind of a cool end to this game here. And it was actually the move prior where I really wanted to see here. No, not here. Here. I wanted to see if I could sack my queen like this. And the problem was just that after this check, he's got an amazing escape. He can't go anywhere except here. And this is totally amazing. But, I don't have a check. And precisely because this queen is on this rook, I can't do something like try to double rooks. So, yeah, the only move I have actually a perpetual here, because he can't go anywhere because these awesome bishops. So he can go here, but I can just block the check and go back, and he has no way to get out of here, so it's just like back and forth perpetual. I mean, he could go here too, but it's the same thing. It's also a check, so then we're right back into this position where he's got to go here. So it's actually a perpetual, and he didn't have to give me the mate, obviously, but again, I think he just he really thought he was going to get this. Oops. He just thought he was going to get this bishop, and then realized he didn't, and then he probably thought he was going to get my queen, and then he got mated. So it was kind of a cool end to the game there with this nice little mate. But wasn't forced, of course. But yes, probably will have to look at this winnower. And I do have a book on the French, so maybe when I get to the winnower line, I can make a video and give a preview of that book. I don't want to give up too much of what the authors put the work into, but sort of like a little taste of what maybe they recommend. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you around.